Growing up, I was always a part of the older generation of my grade, so I turned 18 a lot quicker than a lot of my friends did. So when those of us who were older were about to turn 18, the schools would say, "Why don't you come register to vote?" We'd say, "Oh, okay." So we'd go out, we'd ask for more information, they'd say, "It's a long, complicated process, go here, go there." Fine, we did it all, we went through it, and then right at the end they said, "Oh, you're not 18 yet?" Boom, sent away, and I thought, you know what, forget it. I don't even need to vote, it's not gonna matter. And I haven't voted since. And unfortunately, this is the case for a lot of youths around that age. Actually, according to the LA Times on September 24th, 2020, they mentioned that in the last 18 elections, the population of voters has only exceeded 60% 7 times. That means the majority of our elections have just barely reached half of our population. That's a problem. So today, I'm going to persuade you on why you should vote yes for Proposition 18. According to Ballotopedia, last access on October 7, 2020, Prop 18 states that it will allow those who are currently 17 but will be 18 during the time of an election year, they'll be able to register to vote beforehand, thus breaking those barriers. So we're going to first go over why you should vote yes for Prop 18 because it's going to increase the vote of rating for use. 2, you should vote yes because it's going to help educate and empower these youths. And 3, we're going to talk about what can happen if you don't vote no. Let's get into it. So, point 1, we should first talk about why we should increase the youth vote, all right? So we're going to talk about how there are already little voters in the youth and millennial community. B, it's already going to work because it's already happening in different states. And C, if people start to vote early, it'll create better habits. So according to a journal article written by the Politics and Governance Journal on June 27, 2019, it stated that in the last election, 50% of the millennial population voted, and in relation to that, 70% of the baby boomer population voted. That means that there was 50% of youth voters who just didn't care and it let other demographics dominate the election. And that's a problem, and we can prevent that by voting yes on Prop 18. Now B, we already have proof that it's going to work. According to the LA Times on July 20th, 2020, it stated that 18 states already have this law enacted. They know it's going to work, and they're increasing their numbers. So why can't we bring it to California? And then C, we're going to actually increase future voting habits and future participation in voting. According to an article written by Next City, published on July 2nd, 2020, they said that if people vote early in their lives, then they actually begin to develop habits later in life to just vote constantly because that's what they're used to and that's becoming a regular part of life. So by voting yes on Prop 18, we can help establish those early voting habits, and that's going to allow them to get their voice heard and empower themselves. Now that we've learned about why you should vote yes as far as increasing youth vote goes, let's now talk about how voting yes can also educate and empower our youth through by teaching them how to vote. It's going to help them to be able to vote and actually take the step forward. And B, this is sometimes the only platform that kids can have able to speak for their own. And by voting yes on Prop 18, that's going to allow them to have that platform. So let's get into it. Now, I just want to say that teaching someone how to do this really makes a difference. According to the Targeted News Service, an article written on September 1st, 2020, they mentioned that voters who were taught how to vote in school, and they go to this website or they mail on this ballot, they were laid out the instructions, were very likely to go vote already. So by voting yes, we can start the education process early, and we can get them into start establishing those habits. Now B, we can also give these students a platform for change. Now, as a youth or really as a kid or teenager, it's pretty hard to get your voice heard, especially when your brain isn't fully developed yet, so people don't take you that seriously. But according to the Targeted News Service, an article released on August 4th, 2020, they mentioned that voting is one of the most important ways, if not the only way, that youths can really get their mind out there. They can speak what they want to talk about, and they can really have a platform for change, because their vote, right, by writing in the vote, is going to impact the primary, the big elections, and even the local elections. So it's very important that you vote yes on Prop 18. So now that we've learned about 2 reasons about why we should vote on Prop 18 as far as educating and empowering youth, now let's talk about exactly what's going to happen if you don't take action and if you vote no on Prop 18. So if you vote no on Prop 18, you can actually this can actually lead to leaders being incorrectly elected. Now I'll talk about what I mean. So according to the Huffington Post, an article released on January 28, 2020, they were overseeing the Iowa caucuses, which was a Democratic election between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. And they actually released an article that said it doesn't really matter how many people show up to vote, more that the demographic who wants to show up to vote. So Joe Biden, he knew that the older populations, those were the people who were going to vote for him, and if more older people showed up, he would win. And the opposite is true for Bernie Sanders, as younger Democrats were more likely to vote for him. And at the end of the day, Joe Biden did win that election. Now, I don't care who you support, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Bernie Sanders, Trump, Joe Biden, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this was, the population was not fully represented, and therefore the demographic that was voting was able to take control of the election and completely elect who they want, which isn't exactly democracy for the entire population. All right? So today I talked about why you should vote yes on Prop 18 and why it's critical that you get your voice heard for these youths and also for the general population of the United States. We learned about how we want to increase the amount of voters in America in youth. We were talking about B. We also talked about how it can educate and empower youth. And then finally, we can talk about how we can have misrepresentation in our leadership if we don't vote no on Prop 18. So vote yes on Prop 18. That way, no other students are going to have to go through the struggle and the pain of trying to learn to vote like I did. Thank you.